Good morning and happy Tuesday. Have you missed me? I know it's been forever. I apologize that I took a couple of days off. I don't have any excuse hanging out in New York. I should have still taken the time to talk to you. I was going to do a video as we went by the Statue of Liberty. I took the Staten Island ferry. We go out to New York a couple of times a year, two, three, four times a year. And, I try to take the Staten Island ferry at least once a year. It's like we go into Chicago multiple times a year. And at least once a year, I do the architectural tour in Chicago because it's worth it. It's amazing. It's an amazing point of history, and to see the city grow and to hear about how it got to where it is. But the Staten Island ferry, it's free, and it really isn't designed to be a tourist thing, even though a lot of tourists ride it. It was really designed to actually get people back and forth from Staten Island onto Manhattan. And it goes right by the Statue of Liberty. And I'll tell you, it is amazing to come past the Statue of Liberty and see Lower Manhattan rising out of the ocean. Lower Manhattan is where most of the skyscrapers are, or at least originally were in Manhattan. Obviously, the original skyscraper, the Empire State Building, is up in Midtown, and there's new stuff up there. But a lot of that's where the Twin Towers were, and now the building that replaced that sits Freedom Tower 1 and all the other ones. But seeing that and thinking to myself, imagine if you're an immigrant coming to this country and you're riding in on that boat and you go by the Statue of Liberty and then you see Manhattan coming out of the ocean. I mean, it's got to be just an astounding sight coming from wherever you came from. Even if this was something you did over 100 years ago and you were on your way to Ellis Island to see whether or not you could get into the United States. Ellis Island operated in the early 1900s. Um, about 2 out of 10 of everybody that came to Ellis Island actually got into the country, 2 to 3 out of 10, somewhere in that range. And a third of the country's population can be directly descended to the period of time when Ellis Island was open. We have 330 million people in the United States, and 110 million are direct descendants from the people that came through Ellis Island during that period of when immigration was allowed. And, an immigrant coming to this country is 10 times more likely to become a millionaire than somebody born in the United States of America. 10 times more likely. Now, is that because they have all this opportunity? Is that because of their connections? Is that because of all of the advantages that they've been given? Of course not. Most of the time they come here with nothing. They can't speak the language half the time, let alone they don't have anything in their pockets. But yet they see nothing but opportunity. And, a lot of times I think when you talk to people who are born in this country, we see nothing but everything that goes wrong. I had the pleasure of going on a trip in the Middle East where we were on one of those Viking river cruises. And my wife at the time, Lisa, and we were the only white Americans that were on that trip. And it was probably about half the trip or half the group were Americans, and then the other half were Europeans and Africa and Australia, New Zealand, and even a couple from the Far East. Everybody else who was American on that trip wasn't born in the United States. Most of them were born in the Middle East, and a lot of them from Pakistan. And when you hear the story of them coming to the United States, it's amazing. I mean, the ones from Pakistan all have the same story. They had to go through this process in their hometown or in their country in order to become eligible to come to the United States. And they all came here to go to school. And when they got here, when they arrived, they had one bag and $15 in their pocket, enough money to get a bus from the airport to their dorm room. And then that's it. And these people were on this cruise with us. Most of them were now like retired or getting close to be retired. And they were incredibly successful. They had all gone on and gotten college degrees and graduate degrees. Mostly they worked for big companies. Some were engineers, some, one doctor or a couple of doctors, or people that worked in research. They worked for companies like Merck, or they worked for Pfizer, or they worked for Caterpillar. Mostly they took those jobs working for bigger companies. But when you talk to them, they would laugh because they would say, they would talk about, well, we would get together, the groups of us from Pakistan and from the Middle East, And we would look at each other and go, why is everybody from the United States so upset about the United States all the time? Because all we see is opportunity. And that's really the difference between those coming to this country and those born in this country. You know, as I ride by the Statue of Liberty and look at Lower Manhattan, I think to myself, you know, if I'm an immigrant, and even if I don't speak the language, I'm thinking to myself, this is the land of opportunity. This is the land where anything can happen. You know, most of these people are fleeing persecution, right? Most of them throughout the years, throughout the generations, whether it's the Irish or the Germans or the Jews or the Italians, whichever group it is that's coming into this country, depending upon whether you're talking about the 1860s or the 1910s or the 1950s and 60s, they were fleeing complete persecution where they lost everything. They had nothing. Most of the time they came to the country with what they had on their back, and that was it. Everything else in their homeland had been destroyed. So while we look around as natural born citizens of the United States and see, oh my God, everything's terrible, they look around and go, oh my God, you mean I can buy land, I can start a business, I can move from place to place, I can go where I want, I can do what I want. What an amazing opportunity. And hence why an immigrant is 10 times more likely to become a millionaire than somebody born here. I never get tired of paying attention to those things and seeing our place in history. I also had the chance to go into the New York Public Library, and they had on display one of the drafts of George Washington's final address that he gave after his second term as president in his own hand, notes that he wrote out that he gave to Alexander Hamilton, and together they wrote his final address. And they also had a draft of the Declaration of Independence in Thomas Jefferson's hands, one of the drafts that he did of the document that ultimately led to this country's freedom. Unbelievable that that stuff's just hanging out and you can go look at it. It doesn't even cost anything. You walk in and there you are, and now you're face to face with the document that really started this country. So my message today, we are still the land of opportunity. We are still the land where anything can happen. We are still the land where somebody born of absolutely nothing can grow up to be president of the United States, can grow up to be a multi-billionaire, can grow up to write in ways that are going to impact the world for the rest of our existence. Or they can be a great parent or a great sibling or a great doctor or a great lawyer and have an impact on their community, whether it's providing a service for that community that's remembered after they're gone, or building a building, or creating a garden, or whatever it is. This is the country where anything can happen. This is the country where you can make anything happen if you are driven enough. And the immigrants who come here and prove that to us every day are people that we should pay attention to, because they don't look at this as the country where everything goes wrong. They look at this as the country where anything can happen. So that's my message for Tuesday. I'm sorry I missed a couple of days. I got tied up and got busy. That's an explanation. It's not an excuse. I should have still done it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I'm going to say hi. Noel, great to see you. Linda, great to see you. Maria, out in New York, my friend in New York. You see it every day. Great to see you guys. Andrea and Angela, did I get that right? Angela, how are you? Thank you so much